This season has a lot of things about cycles, so every couple actually represents like a season. It's this generational thing. I will never become the older generation was, and you see life throws things at you. That was one thing in the edit that was really important and was really challenging, especially in the first couple episodes. We really need to understand all of these characters and their motivations and still empathize with them, even though they all seem kind of horrible. We really need to be on this journey with them all the way up to the end. We need to know why they're making these choices. That was really, really important in the edit and things we talked about a lot.
Welcome, everybody, to Filmmaker U, and I have with me today Lauren Connelly, ACE. We're going to talk about specifically Beef Season 2, but getting started as an editor, working your way through tape-to-tape linear editing, if you can believe it or not, and all things art and footage speaking to you, all kinds of stuff like that. So welcome aboard, and go to filmmakeru.com, and you can see all kinds of crazy stuff about editing, documentaries, color correction, VFX, sound design. Check it out at filmmakeru.com. That's the only pitch you're going to get here today. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for coming in person. We never do this. We're so happy that this is not a Zoom interview.
This is awesome.
Yeah, we're happy
seeing
until all the
people
cameras
outside
go.
of the edit bay. Very exciting.
It's true. And they let you loose every once in a while, right?
Only occasionally.
Yeah. So you're doing a lot, I've noticed. I mean, a lot of editors too, because we had John Philpott was just here as an artist in residence.
Amazing. I'm going to see him tomorrow.
Okay, so tell him we say hi. I mean, he was an artist in residence. We have a 6-week art of editing workshop at Manhattan Edit Workshop, which is part of the company that does Filmmaker U. It's a long story. I won't bore you with it. But he mentors editors. And so in the 6-week class, he'll talk about his career. He'll watch their edits and critique.
Oh,
and
that's great.
No, they have a really good time. But I don't want to not talk. You do a lot of mentoring. So as we get through your sort of, try to be linear in your story, go from the beginnings to the, but I do want to talk about it because I think it's really impressive. You're doing like no fewer than 3 different mentor programs, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Well, that's great. I mean, and I think it's a strange thing. It's not specific just to editors, but I have noticed with many editors that the idea of giving back is really central, is really a priority for them.
The editing community is such an amazing place. I feel so lucky to be part of it, and in particular ACE, but the entire editing community. And I think a lot of that to me stems from on, TV shows, you work with multiple editors. You all become very close in the perfect scenario. So you make a lot of other editor friends. And I think to do this job, usually you're pretty passionate about it, so you really enjoy talking about it. I've been told I don't have hobbies.
Well, that's your hobby.
It is. I just love editing.
Right.
So I like talking about it. I like to, hear from other passionate people and the people looking to do it. So
yeah. And also when you're on something like unwinding story, and I love that, being deep into something and like there's a riddle or there's a problem to solve, and you don't know when the connection is going to happen or with whom, if you're talking to some other, but you could show something to someone and it was something you never saw and you never would have 100%. Seen, and they see it instantly and you're like, oh my God, 100%. That's so obvious to everyone but me. And I love, it's a very sort of collaborative exploration and, not problem solving, because it isn't just problems. You know what I mean?
Enhancement.
Yes. It's also like in, rock climbing, they call the pitches that you do problems.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not a problem like that kind of thing. It's like a challenge. And so that's the way I look at editing. If you're talking about problems, it's like there's always a way to solve it, or multiple ways, probably.
Yes. And I think, too, with what you're saying, I think editors understand how collaborative the process can be and should be to make the best product. So I think that goes into why we like such a welcoming community and one that likes to, further the art of what we do. So
Yeah, good people editors, not like cinematographers. They're a bunch of jerks. No, they're great and necessary and special people. But let's go back in time.
okay.
You'll have to tell the story again. You've been doing it a lot, but I know you hail from Virginia.
I do, Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay, so do you consider yourself? It's still Southern because D.C. is really the South, right?
Technically, but it is that one little blue section right at the top. So
all right. So you then got your training when you were in high school, right? You were your first. We were talking like your tape to tape editing chops. So try to describe, because I was just doing this 2 nights ago, trying to describe what it was like to cut on tape with the controller and little knobs and like setting your ins and outs. But like, what was that like, and why of all things was that the thing that sort of convinced you to pursue this?
It's really a very perfect career path for me, but in the moment I don't know that it made any sense to anyone. I didn't grow up as a big film kid. I probably shouldn't say that on an interview that every film person is going to watch, but I didn't. I read a lot. I went to a lot of theater with my parents, and the high school I went to was the science and tech high school. And one of the technology classes was video technology, which was VHS, so that ages me. And I decided to take that course, and something about it just clicked with me. It was like this perfect combination of tech and computers and storytelling.
Right.
And all of a sudden it all just made sense of like all these disparate things that I was into in one artistic field. And there just was this tactile, at that point I'd obviously never had the opportunity to cut film, but there was this very tactile feel to doing the tape to tape with you had these knobs like this.
Yeah.
And you'd have to like set your in point on like, the decks were like these huge walls the size of the room, and you have to set your in, you have to like wind the tape, you have to get it to the exact place on the tape, and then you have to make sure you're at the exact place on the tape you're recording to, and then you had to like cross your fingers and hope you did it right.
I mean,
especially for me in high school, I did not know what I was doing. You had to hope you did it right. And what's really interesting to me, why I think it's so unique too that I picked editing, is so in this class, the first film I did, I shot it like a play.
Oh, you shot the thing that you edited?
Yes.
Okay, on VHS.
Yes.
All right.
And I didn't understand what editing was. I didn't understand film language at all. I
it happened in the
theater.
camera. You just cut the camera.
So it was like I just shot everything in a kind of like this, in a wide, and just did the scene, and people would exit, and then I'd cut to the next scene, and people would do the scene like a play.
Right.
And then I watched everyone else's films, and I went, wait, they cut to like a close-up of this. And I think some of that is I grew up watching such old Hollywood movies. I was really into that growing up. So the movies I did watch, old school Hollywood,
But even older, like the oldest films were all shot as if they were stage productions.
So that's how I had done mine.
And then you start seeing like, what was it? I mean, we study this in the class. Like you start looking into Griffith, where it's sort of like going from wide to close to show more intensity. And it's like, oh, it totally makes sense. The closer I am to you, the more I'm able to get emotional information, or the pacing of something. We're seeing two things that, like, it's just, so you had this little mini sort of editing evolution in real time.
Yeah. And I think that's what made it so fascinating to me, because I hadn't really understood the power of that until I was doing it myself, that it just, I don't know, blew my mind, I guess. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to film school to be an editor. And everyone's like, what? So
you went to USC?
I did. I went to USC.
So was that, because again, we do film school flashback on this one too. Was it a difficult, like, USC at that time, I don't know your age or when you were applying, so it was probably always competitive.
It was very competitive, yes.
So without necessarily having a background in film, did you think that was Did you think you were a shoo-in, or were you like, oh, I'll
Oh,
just
I
give it a
mean,
try?
I don't think anyone thinks they're a shoo-in. I
Mhm.
think that's, but I did, after I had taken that first class in high school, I did go to a summer film program, like a summer camp, I
Mhm.
guess, but it was in Philadelphia,
Uh-huh.
and did a film, course there over the summer. And so I had made a film there, and I had used that for applications. USC didn't require a short, other film
Mhm.
schools had, but I had, and then I took that whole year. So we'll rewind. So the way that class worked in my high school is you take like a prerequisite. So you take a 1 semester course. That's where I fell in love with it.
Mhm.
Then that summer I went to this film camp,
Mhm.
and then for your entire senior year you take it the whole year.
Oh.
So I did then do a lot of stuff.
And this is while you were applying to
Yes,
USC.
yeah.
So this was
So
undergrad USC also.
yes, so I went to
Mhm.
undergrad for USC, and I took. I think at one point my advisor said, "Can I stop writing down these courses?" He had like run out of room. He's like, "You've
Mhm.
taken like every editing
Right.
class. Like, do we need to write this one down?"
Mhm.
It's like,
But it shows dedication. It shows,
I
a
really,
direction.
yeah, I knew what I want to do, and I will say back then it was a little stranger to come into that class. I was in the when it used to be like separated into like cinema television production,
Mhm.
so I think there was about 50 of us, and most people wanted to write or direct, a couple
Right.
cinematographers.
No, I was going to
I
ask,
think
as
there
an
was maybe
editor.
only two of us
Hmm.
who were like that, and I don't even know if the other person had discovered that like freshman year. Like I came in, and this is what I wanted
Right.
to do.
No,
So
I
it was
mean,
very bizarre to everyone for sure.
it is
They're like, you want to do what?
most of the people, they come into editing from something else. They're not that this is editing is the thing that I
Yeah,
want to do. It's a kind of
yeah.
interesting that you
I
discovered
feel
that.
really lucky
Yeah.
as I've just been able to hone the craft for so long. And
Hmm.
I was able to take every class at USC that they had, and
Hmm.
really practice and learn all of these different things and really focus, because obviously I would not call myself a buff, but like, I studied a lot of film then in
Hmm.
college, and
Yeah.
it really was film school for me because some of these I got to see for these classics for the first time, in these
Hmm.
courses and really analyze them. And I just feel like I was able to really soak in everything I needed to learn, knowing what my focus was
Right.
during those 4 years. It was
Hmm.
really a
Was there a
gift.
particular film in like at that time that just blew the doors off that you just like couldn't believe what you were seeing?
I mean, I don't know if I should admit what I hadn't seen up until that point.
I.
But I will admit I had never seen The Godfathers before film school, so that
Hmm.
was a little,
Right.
yeah, those were.
Well.
There was many. I think I'm trying to think what else stood. The Graduate, that
Oh, right.
one really like I
Hmm.
loved that, and it was just great.
That one still holds up. I just watched that.
I don't know the last time I've watched it.
I watched it within the last 3 months with my 15-year-old, and he loved it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, it's got such intention and such perspective. It's like it's confident, it's experimental. I think Nichols was just like I think it was kind of like coming from theater. He was like in a way discovering it like you were discovering
Yeah.
editing, having not been necessarily a film buff. He's like, wow, I can do this, and just I've talked about this before. It's just like there's a cartoon, a Bugs Bunny cartoon, where like Daffy Duck dives into a treasure chest and he's like just jumping. It was almost that's how I figured Nichols was with film. It's just like there's so much to do, and you can see the excitement and the
Mhm.
discipline in that movie. You should watch it again.
Okay, well,
Yeah, let's
we'll
pop. Let's screen it up
do it
here.
right now. Do you have a
Yeah,
VHS of it?
I do actually. I have it on 3/4 now. Yeah, there's. I mean, that's and also to learn them in an environment where you're deconstructing them while you're watching
Yeah, you
them.
get to watch it, and then the
Mhm.
professors get up there and explain all of this, and it's like
Mhm.
I was just like a sponge,
Yeah.
and it was all new, but I was of an age where I could really appreciate it and study this, and
Mhm.
I feel very grateful to have gotten that experience.
No, it's great. And then that's you're already in LA. So
Yes.
did you start looking for? Were you working while you were in school, or did you get your first
No,
job out of school?
I got my first job out of school. I started actually as a personal assistant
Mm-hmm.
to Ian Gervitz, who's amazing. He is a writer, director. He did shows like Frasier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was doing a movie called Ellie Blues at the time, and he needed an assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine at USC, her sister was the casting director on the movie, and my friend was not in the film program. And all of a sudden, I think it was, I don't know, a couple weeks before graduation, I had no idea what I was going to, I had no plan. You're starting to get real stressed out at that point. I get a call from her, and she said, "Oh, my sister overheard the writer director of this movie needs an assistant, and he has a 12-year-old daughter, and a lot of the responsibility with her. He's looking for, a woman."
Right.
And so she said, "Oh, my sister goes to USC. I bet she knows film student." She's like, "You're the only person in the film program I know. Like, are you interested?" So that worked out really, really well. And he was amazing. And he taught me so much. I did everything with him, helped him with business stuff. I was on set for the movie. He got let me be the assistant editor on the movie because he knew that's what I wanted to do. And it was independent. So, it's how I got my first kind of experience on that. And he actually officiated my wedding.
That's
and his
amazing.
wife did a reading. So, we're very close.
Wow.
Really
And so, the editor mentored you through, or how was that experience?
That was very unique experience because it's funny because I didn't know anything about how cutting rooms worked at different levels.
This was film or digital, this cutting room?
Digital. I'm trying to think. I don't remember what they shot on. I just remember ingesting was it mini DV, like the purple boxes? Was that mini
DV cam?
DV cam, maybe.
But it was an Avid job or something.
Yeah, it was an Avid job, and basically I didn't really work with the editor of that movie much because there was only one edit bay. So I went in nights.
Right.
So I was transcoding tapes, in the bay while resting on the couch trying to get all this footage in for him. But I did get to sit, because I was his assistant, I got to sit with Ian a lot as he watched the cuts. And so I would take his notes down to then it was this dual thing, I would then be taking the notes as Ian's assistant to give to the editor to help, send to transcribe. So I got to learn a lot watching this. It's such a unique position. And then after that job, I became a post PA, which was a great experience. Anyone who gets the opportunity who's young and even not young, be a post PA. It's great.
Yeah.
I had a great time. You really learn a lot. Just getting you to observe how a big movie cutting room worked. And on that job, I ended up meeting editor Peter Teschner, who is here in New York, but was in LA for a long time. And he then asked me to be his apprentice on Land of the Lost. And then I became a second for him. And so I got to kind of go up this very traditional path. And after a couple jobs as a second for him, he had a first for a very long time. And he said, "Look, you're ready. You're going to have to fly the nest, and go find a crew." And what was incredible to me is that there had been an assistant editor on the job. I was a PA, and he had always made jokes. "When I become an editor, you're going to be my first." And it was the last day of my job. I remember walking into a CVS, my phone rang, and I was like, "Patrick." And he's like, "Hey, I got a movie. You want to be my first?" It was
That's great.
kismet. It was crazy. So I ended up firsting for him on a Hallmark movie. So it was kind of more of a TV movie versus these big theatrical. And I found that happens a lot. When you want to get a bump in titles, sometimes you have to go to a smaller project.
Right.
So we finished that movie. There only was me. So there was no second. And I was more used to, you'd have a first, second, sometimes an apprentice, just me. It was my first job, it was really challenging. But I was determined to do a good job, just do whatever, work whatever hours I need to work, get it all done, be successful at it. And right at the end of that job, so the director of the movie was John Avnet, and he was going to be producing these web series called Wigs.
Yeah.
And it was the race to streaming. So it was right before House of Cards. So all these companies were trying to get into this new world. And Patrick said, "Hey, do you want to assist on these?" And I was like, "I'm good." I won't lie, that first new media contract was no good. I was like, "No, I'm going to go try to, find a first position on a bigger movie, you know?" So a few weeks went by, and all of a sudden I got a call from Patrick, and he said, "Hey, I got a big feature. Someone's got to cut these." And he suggested me.
Okay.
So I went in, and John Avnet basically had me live audition for the gig.
Like edit an
He
episode.
said, "Here's a scene. Cut this." He went to his office. "Come get me when you're done. Let's see what you can do."
Someone did that to me once, and it was like, first of all, it was like, free labor, really? Like, because if it's good, but it's also like you're on the spot.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
that's not how you get the best work out of somebody, is to like, go cut this and let's see what you can
I
do.
work well under pressure.
You better. I mean, editors also, I think part of what we do is to work under deadline, under pressure.
With someone behind you,
Yeah.
you
Oh
have
God,
to
I hate
get
that
used,
so
used
much.
to that.
The right person behind you can be nice. The wrong person behind you can be like torture. I remember there was one feature, the person was just telling me like why everything I was doing was wrong, or to cut this, trim this down 2 frames. That's like, and it was like, you've heard the phrase, like, they can bleep it. You've heard frame fuckers?
Yes.
Yeah. It was like, I was working with the ultimate, and I was living in a studio apartment in Manhattan. This person was sitting on the edge of my bed, bossing me around. And then one day, this was early days of Final Cut Pro. So we bought it instead of renting Avid for $1,000 a week. We bought Final Cut for $1,000 total. And I guess autosave had been shut off or something. And he's sitting there schooling me. And then we crashed and we lose a day. Just lost the whole day. And I got up and I said, you can stay, you can go, I'm taking a walk. And I went for a nice long walk around the block, and I sort of processed. And it makes a big difference to have somebody who's a collaborator than someone who's like just asking for a technician, like a pair of hands.
100%, yes.
But that's,
Final Cut back then. So I guess this will prove I am a little bit younger than you, maybe, but I insisted my senior in high school that they get Final Cut because it was brand new.
Yeah.
And what's hilarious is I never got my senior project off because we could not figure out how to export it because the teacher had never used it. I obviously had never used it.
It was so...
Just went in the ether. We couldn't get it. We could not get the project off.
We would be outputting for festivals, and it would get like 98% export, and then boop, error occurred.
We couldn't get it off. No. You ever cut on a Casablanca?
Oh boy, what is that?
It's like its own system. It like had its own desk. We had that in my high school too. It was like a...
It was like Media 100 type thing, or like
it was non-linear, so this was like very exciting. So after the VHS, I then got to try out the Casablanca, and like, I know this sounds like a fake thing, but it's not. It's a real thing, and it was probably about the size of this, and it had its own little monitor and its VHS decks, and that was a game changer because instead of linear, where you had to like plan it all out, you could start moving things around.
Oh yeah,
which was magic.
Well, even I remember sitting in on my very first Avid because it was 93. I was at NYU, first Avid they got. And so everyone's piled into this little closet, and the teacher's trying to tell everybody. And then he said something about like, well, and if you don't like the sequence, just duplicate it so you can save what you did. And we're like, say that again. Right. Like, wait, what? And I mean, this is what we were using to that point. It was 16. If you uncut it, you had to remember everything. You had to hang things up and little trims and write everything down. And you couldn't because it just was too much. But you literally just make a copy like Word document. And just that one thing was amazing. Yeah, no, like blew our collective minds.
I feel really grateful that I got to experience this time in the tech quite a bit, because even on my apprentice job, so I was an apprentice on Land of the Lost, we shot film dailies, and we would screen film dailies at lunch on set. So in my room as the apprentice, I was the one doing...
You were like syncing dailies.
We weren't syncing them, but we had to like wind them, because they would come out of order. You had to like re-roll them all.
Yeah.
Spool them all. I don't even know what the words are anymore, but it was really cool, and like splice them together and prepare these film dailies to go be screened in a projector, in the dailies trailer. And it was just very exciting to have seen so many aspects of this. And it makes me appreciate what Avid does.
Sure.
In this, like, even more.
Yes.
And all the terms are, I told some young people my Instagram handle, and they all gave me a blank stare.
What is
It's Splice Girl. No one knew what a splice or a Spice Girl was, so it landed real dead.
It's probably the fact that it's a riff on Spice Girls, not that it's a splice thing, because we all know what splicing is. Although you saw the splicer when you came in,
Yes.
and it's like that was our, that was the whole, that was it. And it's like, our first day of the 6-week class, we'll take 2 pieces of film, tape it together,
Awesome.
and say Apple Z, and rip it, and take the tape off.
Now
It's
go
like,
put it in a bin.
right, like this, the process, the logic's the same. You got to think about it as like it's building blocks and pieces, and you're putting, it's like assembling things together. You're making this big giant thing, and then you're cutting it down from this big thing to us, like, so it's just that you can do it faster, and then you're tasked with doing it faster, unfortunately.
Yes,
but the thought
of course.
process of doing it on film was so decelerated, and it allowed for like, you could just think through things while, like when you're winding film, you're just like, how's that do? And you start like thinking about the decisions you're making. By the way, we should talk about beef, because I
Okay.
know you're here for that, and I don't want to keep you here for an hour and a half. That would be...
I'm fine. I got nothing.
Oh, great. Okay. Jason's like, I'm catching a train. But, you had also done a lot of films and work between Land of the Lost and then
Yes.
Beef. And
Yes.
you've done a lot of different kinds of things, I've noticed. So, I think, unless that's just by luck of the draw, or you're sort of like consciously like not pigeonholing yourself and saying
I
like,
was consciously doing that.
that's hard.
I
yeah.
got very good advice from Peter Teschner to never pigeonhole myself.
So I guess that because you were saying like trying new things, or sort of like kind of working outside of your comfort zone,
Yes.
so to speak, beef came to you. How? I mean, that's the thing. Like, so is it because you're saying sometimes when you want to advance, you have to do it at the expense of something else, like a little bit of a bump down or a different kind of work. This seems like you were on a trajectory at this point, and then it just went bigger, bigger, bigger.
Thank you. Yes.
You're
I mean, I think it's been a really exciting last few years. I've worked on things I've really been passionate about and really loved, and that were really kind of what I had been hoping to do. I mean, it was kind of the dream gig.
Yeah.
I remember when season 1 came out, I said, God, I'd love to work on something
Sure.
like this,
Mm-hmm.
and working with A24 is just incredible. So I had, I had told my agents at the time, I said, I really want to get on A24 stuff. That's really what I want to do. And they had set up actually a general meeting with them, and it went really well. We got along. They didn't have anything at the time, but we had made a good connection. And I'm trying to think of, a few months later, there was an opening on a show called Mo.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly how the behind the scenes worked, but my resume got in the mix and I got that gig. And so then, gosh, that was a great experience. And then it was kind of what I call the A24 verse. So then when there was an opening on Beef, my resume got in the mix.
Okay. So
that.
you got in through there was another show, and you
Yeah.
sort of made a good
Yeah,
impression.
made a good impression, and then got really lucky that there was a slot.
Right.
So
Now,
again, that's the luck part,
it's
that there
finding
had to
them-
be an
it's make-
opening.
Right. You made your luck and you got lucky. And that's,
Yeah.
and that's like telling, sort of like aspiring editors, that's sort of like, there's so many different, I've never heard someone tell the same story. Your story is different than every other editor I've ever talked to, how they got through, except for they kind of engineered things to make sure they were in the right place at the right time, to the degree that you even can. But when an opportunity presented itself, they did not hesitate.
Yeah.
And whether they were really ready or not, they got ready. And that sometimes you have to just say, this is going to happen. I mean,
It's 100% true. I remember, and if Peter watches this, he'll remember this moment when after the first those web series I was cutting, the first season had ended, and actually Peter called me. He said, "Hey, my first got a cutting job. Would you want to come be my first?" And that was the dream job, dream job that I thought I would never get, because they had been together nearly 40 years, I think,
Wow.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "I know you've been cutting for the last year, but this will be a year as the first, so you'll have to stay, but think about it. Whatever choice you make, I support, but the job is yours if you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Take a week and think about it." And man, I had no plan for what I was going to do after those web series ended. And I just kept thinking, if I don't take this risk now, what good are these credits in a year? So I told him I was going to try to make a run for this.
Yeah.
And he was super supportive. I'm actually seeing him tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be really great. And I think I cried for a week. I was so stressed. I was like, I can't believe I just turned down my dream job,
Right.
to like.
Well, the dream
to have
changed.
no-
That's,
Exactly. To have no plan. And I got,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like you sometimes have to take a risk.
Yeah. or
and say,
trust the universe,
this
like,
is
which
going
is
to
so
work out.
right.
And if I don't take this risk now, I'm going to regret that. Kind of what you were saying before is like, I'm going to regret not giving it a try.
Right. So
Gosh.
Beef, okay, you're saying like Beef 1, season 1 got you kind of excited to
Yeah.
work on it, but Beef 2 is so completely
It is so
different.
different.
You get on it and you're
It's
like,
so
wait,
different.
wait a minute, where's the yelling and screaming and trapped in the desert stuff? And
There's
like,
a little yelling.
there's definitely some yelling and chair throwing and some of that
Things,
stuff.
yeah, for
but
sure.
it's definitely a different beast.
Yes.
You
and
know,
that was even more exciting because then you got to create a whole new.
it's more an evolution of season 1, but it's really, I mean, well, you tell me, like, what about it did struck you as different versus similar? And as in
Everything is different. What's similar is, to me, Sunny's sense of humor, our showrunner. He just has this very singular tone, which I just really enjoy. You know, I love to laugh in dark moments, and I think sometimes the funniest things are happening when things are sad or bad, and that's real life. So he does that really well, and he can make these characters that are so flawed and go through these absurd situations, but you get how they got there somehow. Like, it's, how did any of this transpire into what ends up happening? It's kind of nuts, but every step of the way you're with it. So I was really excited, based on what I had seen in season 1, to do a whole new Beef. And the idea this season was to have kind of a slower burn, a more passive aggressive Beef, more layered.
right.
And it's obviously a really large ensemble. So that's really different. It's just so dense. I mean, there's so much conflict, relationships, generational, class, you know, you have within the relationships, between the relationships,
Right.
you know, all of that stuff, and weaving that in a limited amount of time was very challenging, but I like a challenge.
How many episodes? 8?
There's 8 episodes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this wasn't, I mean, I don't know what isn't to some degree, and it's sort of like a socioeconomic theme, not influenced to some degree by White Lotus, because there's just like, whatever. It's like a bare scent of it, right? In there, it's not, because it is dealing with class, and that show has always been about that, right? Since season 1, White Lotus was about.
Yeah. If you look at Beef season 1 too, though, like, there's class.
There's some of that
There's
in
a
there.
lot of class in there too when you look at Amy and Danny.
Yeah, I remember.
You know, like, they're in a much different, you know, economic standing, and their
Right.
issues are much
He's a
different.
contractor.
Yeah, or kind of.
And he would eat Burger King until he threw up.
Yes, that is correct.
It's a long time. I watched it. I mean, I haven't rewatched it. Maybe I should go back and do that. But
she's very wealthy and has
Yeah.
her shop and fancy house and
Right.
all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
There, it was there too.
yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
But yeah, dealing with also this insane cast must have
My
been,
gosh, what a dream.
like, opening Christmas presents. All the dailies
It
would come in.
is.
You're just like, what do I have now? It's like,
It was unbelievable. I think the biggest challenge was not leaving gold on the floor because they were all brilliant.
yeah.
I mean, they gave so much in every scene, so much variety. And, you know, so much about Beef is the subtext. It's what's not being said. It's people reacting to each other and how people are taking in what's being said and on their faces. And this cast
Right.
did that like none I've
So-
really ever seen.
I hadn't seen
Kaylee Spaney.
So I'd never seen her in anything before.
Really?
No. And her face is so incredibly
Oh
like,
my
you don't
gosh.
really need to do anything, because so much of what's going, you just sort of lock in on her face, and there's
She's
sadness,
incredible.
joy, struggle, confusion, you know, it's incredible. Like, the right actor
Yes.
can do so much with so little.
And the way she was able to develop her character through the entire series, I mean, I'm beyond impressed with her talent. And, you know, her character to me is so complicated. And to me, you know, in the end, does she make the worst choices of everyone? Maybe, yeah. But I find her reasoning why. I mean, she's just so hurt. She really started from a good place of love and wanting to protect her relationship, and, you know, had a terrible health issue and didn't have insurance. You know, all of this stuff is really hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love watching her this whole season. in
mean,
working with her performance.
there's no winner in the show because it costs them something to win, for both of
100%.
them, right? So now they are, you know, Carrie and Oscar, right? Like their character, Josh and what's her character's name?
Ashley?
Carrie Mulligan.
Oh, Lindsay.
So they're like, they are Lindsay and Josh.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's like everything they didn't want to be, they are, except they're safe, secure.
This season has a lot of things about cycles, so every couple actually represents like a season. So you have spring, you have Ashley and Austin. Then you have summer, which is Troy and Ava. And then you have fall, which is Lindsay and Josh. And then you have winter, which is the chairwoman and Dr. Kim. And so you see how, it's this generational thing. I will never become what the older generation was. And you see life throws things at you. And things get really tough. And you make choices that even if your reasoning was with good intentions, you can make really bad choices. And, I think that was one thing in the edit that was really important to me and was really challenging, especially in the first couple episodes in 2 and 3, is we really need to understand all of these characters and understand their motivations and still empathize with them, even though they all seem kind of horrible, if we're going to be honest. At the beginning, they're all kind of doing some stuff that we don't agree with, but we really need to be on this journey with them all the way up to the end and fall and get on this crazy ride at the end. We need to know why they're making these choices. Right. So that was really, really important in the edit and things we talked about a lot.
And I mean, look, if it's not in the script, there's, you can't create it either. Like to have this initial sympathy for well, it's got to be there, right? So you sympathize with the young couple because they're struggling, right? They don't haves, and then the sort of they're not wealthy, but they are wealthy, and then there's the other wealthy, right? So they're sort of in between, but they're sort of like they've at their price gotten what they wanted from their lives, and they're still unsatisfied, right? But
they also still have a lot of debt, due to his mother's medical expenses, dreams that they thought they could do that they can't do. I thought Sunny did an amazing job kind of capturing this elder millennial experience of being caught in, you've made it this far, but you're never going to get to this level. And it's like, if that happens to, then the Gen Z as well, they're all kind of going through a different variation of that.
I'm Gen X. I'm so glad I was left out of this.
Of this narrative.
I didn't want to be part of it. We would have just blown the whole thing up. But it's interesting that there's a parallel to...
Maybe it was Troy Gen X. I'll have to ask Sunny. Is Troy...
Troy's
he's a member of the country club.
He's
so
the wealthy,
actually, you guys
he's
got everything.
The private jet guy, right?
Yeah, sounds like you guys got it all.
We run the world now.
Yeah.
Clearly, you can tell from your surroundings. But yes, I think that's true because that is that other generation. But it's not a direct parallel, but like you just saying, I'm going to make a decision that might be of a risk to me, to try something, because to not do it means I'll never know. These characters are going through a similar, and the regret that Oscar Isaac and Carrie have because of the things they didn't do. That dream that they wanted to open up their own,
bed and breakfast,
right.
BB&B,
yeah, and look where they are because they didn't do it. And then you find that the younger couple decide to do something maybe not so great for a good reason, and sort of they sort of grab it, for better or for worse, and it's sort of both. So your trajectory kind of embodies all of that.
I hope not the worst.
No, it's all been best so far. I don't know. We've only been talking for 40 minutes, so you got to give me some.
We can go back to VHS tapes. It's fine.
Who'd you burn on your way to the top? That's what I want to know. But it's like it's interesting to be able to see it because it was very complex, very funny, and very sad. The dog was very sad.
There's a lot of sad in it.
Yeah.
I mean, in episode 6, when both Josh and Lindsay talked to each of the, Austin and Ashley about kind of their regrets and have these big, beautiful, those performances were incredible. They get me every time what they're talking about. And, yeah. I
think it's a very hard thing to pull off. I think you and Laura do it very, very well to sort of, because I've watched things that try to be funny and dramatic, and it's a real fine line. It's really hard.
It's a very fine line, and every we have a lot of discussions about in the scenes what the scene needs to do and whose scene it is. And I think that's how we walk this fine line. It's like, whose scene is this? Who's the perspective character? What are we trying to get across here? What do we need to understand? How do we now make sure those things are clear? You know, there's so many, and in episode 3 in particular, there's so many examples of what we call like the beef rubric, which is where the perspective character is in tighter, cleaner coverage. The other characters are in wider, more dirty coverage. So you really get that visual cue of who you should be paying attention to. But there's so many scenes where it's really Ashley's scene. Some of them she has no lines.
Right.
There's a scene when it's revealed that Austin has gotten the physical therapy job in front of the whole, group, the whole club. We're completely with Ashley. She doesn't say a word.
Right.
It's all about how we're cutting to her reaction and what size coverage and when and what looks she's doing. So much is in the looks. There's another scene. She has some lines, but less, and it's Austin has most lines. He's making sloppy joes, and she just keeps looking at him. This happens in so many scenes, and that's a lot about how we walk this line. It's like it's so much of it's in those silent moments and the beats and making sure the audience is clocking that stuff.
Now, is this coverage coming to you with the idea that you were saying the footage speaks to you?
Yes.
Is it shot in order to speak to you so that it's
For
very
sure.
clear that that piece of coverage that is uncluttered is meant to be the focus because that character is your focus? Or are you saying, well, why don't we try cutting it with a different emphasis on a different character to see who this really wants to be about?
In a lot of times, it is very clear. I mean, Sonny is really visionary, and he has a great idea of how he wants to do these scenes and how he wants to cover them. But sometimes there is variation in that. There's one actually in episode 3, there's a lunch scene, and they actually shot, it's Austin with Ashley and Eunice, and they shot that scene every way. I could go to everyone clean. I could go to everyone dirty.
Interesting.
I could switch perspectives at any time. And that was the challenge on that scene. Whose scene is it, and when do we switch it? Because in the end, it needed to switch halfway through. It starts as Austin's perspective, and it becomes Ashley's scene. So that is where then there was a lot of experimentation.
That decision, so it starts as Austin's scene, it becomes Ashley's scene. Is that something that you are discovering? You're working with the director,
what I love about that scene is the moment I chose to do it is where we actually ended up sticking with, which was really fun, for me. But I probably cut that scene a number of ways at the beginning, and I kept just experimenting with that. So it's like we start close. In the end, this is how the structure that I presented was very much the same as what we ended up with. But if you start close on Austin and you pull back and you see him caught between these two women, and that's just that shot obviously was designed. It's a very amazing visual cue to what we're going to be doing now for the rest of the season is he's caught between these two women. Then really where this comedy of the scene lies too is what Austin, Charles Melton's amazing. His looks between the two of them. But instead of doing that beef rubric after the first shot, I always kept him in the dirty coverage for his part of the scene because I wanted to see who he was looking at every single time. I wanted to make sure we're clocking. He's looking at Ashley. He's looking at Eunice because his feelings and his reactions to them are very different because he's trying to make sure Ashley isn't catching on, but he's really into Eunice. And, this whole dynamic is playing out. And in that first half of the scene, we actually never cut from one of the women to the other one. If you watch it again carefully, it's always through his eyes, literally. So if they're talking to each other or saying lines, it goes from Ashley, he looks over there, then we cut to Eunice. So we're always kind of with his reactions and perspectives on the first half. That's how you know it's his. Then when Ashley catches on, we switch to the beef rubric, go to her clean for the first time and clock her reaction. And then all of a sudden now we're focused on her silent reactions to what's happening over here. And that was a really, I think a lot of editors say, a dinner scene is always challenging, keeping the eye lines, who to cut to when, how to fit in all the reactions. So
food continuity, always a killer. Can you please pass the beef, please? I love that line though. Can you please pass the right? Yes. I don't know if exactly, but the double please is like this guy's dying.
Yeah. So it really that in that example. So there were examples of that, and then there was things what I love about working with Sonny is he has such a vision, but he loves post and he loves editing, and he's really open in the editing room to ideas and to experiment and to try things. I think this is probably the most alts I've ever done on anything.
The most what?
Alts.
Oh, okay.
Alt versions. We would try everything. We would just try it all. And we could go down a path for hours. No, let's keep what we had.
Right.
Totally. But I love that because he doesn't worry about, we just spent half a day working on this. Now he knows that what we had, we're confident.
Yeah.
This is right. We could not sway ourselves.
Right.
Of any of these other options, which with this cast, many of them were excellent, all good. But it's like, no, this is what we're trying to do right here. And we really analyzed every single frame. I mean, every look in that scene I was just talking about, every way his eyes clock is incredibly deliberate, and how we're supposed to feel when watching that. So we did analyze everything. He leaves no stone left unturned.
It's wild. And I was watching something about him. He's like, the best idea always wins. Like, it's
Yes, it doesn't
honoring the
matter.
material. It's not ego. It's just like the best idea.
Best idea wins. And even if, sometimes in the editing room, on many projects, I've found that I'll have an idea early on and I'll pitch it and people are like, nah. But I'm okay with that. I don't mind. I just put it out there. What is amazing to me, Sonny's memory is a steel trap. So sometimes you have this thing where you're like, how do I bring this up again? Because I want to bring this up again. He always remembers and he'll bring it up. He's like, hey, that thing you showed me a couple weeks ago, can we pull that thing up again? He's always looking for the best idea. And to me, that is true filmmaking. It's collaborating. It's making sure we're doing justice by the story we're telling. So
yeah, that's great.
Great.
It sounds
so sometimes even if the vision was plotted out, if we need to change it based on now what we're seeing as a whole and what the piece needs,
right.
We'll
That's
change
when,
it.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like you don't really know. You can plan it as much as you
we
want.
definitely made some coverage clean.
Yeah.
That wasn't. Switched perspective. We did some fun, he loves doing all that. He doesn't, we use the tools, we really want to get all the gold off the cutting room floor. So we'll do lots of VFX, anything at our disposal, we'll utilize.
That's great.
To make it happen. Yeah.
Are you on season 3? Is there a season? There must be.
I have no idea. This is everyone's biggest question. I hope so.
Well,
Sonny, hire me for season 3.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's a season 3.
I'm sure it will be a while. Sonny, from what I understand, he really has to have the idea that speaks to him. Like we're talking about the footage speaks to you. The idea has to speak to him. Right. So when that will happen, I don't know.
The good thing about this though is since it's an anthology, you don't have to rewatch. We had to rewatch Severance to watch the second season.
Oh my gosh,
of Severance.
And I'm terrible. I forget everything. I have to watch every show.
I have to watch it twice. Like Pluribus, when Pluribus finally drops, it's going to be like, well, I guess I have to watch the whole first season again. I guess that's what YouTube recaps are for.
My friends and I would make little videos in our backyards, imitations of Indiana Jones and Star Wars. Eventually that need to tell stories became more of a technical interest and an interest in the art. To me, what's exciting is using cinema in its full potential, which is rhythm and sound design and music. Our job is to set up expectations and then deliver on them. I'm Brian Cates, and this is my course in film editing.
But I did, before you go though, because you're doing a lot of work giving back, and I think we talked earlier about editors are sort of that, sort of the spirit of giving back. You're involved in a lot of mentorships. Talk to me about, deciding to get involved with that, and then, what are you doing to help, underserved community, aspiring editors, because it's why we're all here as educators. But why in the world would you do that? You don't have to.
As humans, we all should be doing that. I think we do have to. But, if I hadn't gone into editing, I didn't really have a plan. Luckily, I discovered this young. So but I think I really always liked the idea of teaching. So it kind of gives a little hint of that. I really enjoy it. I'm part of the ACE Diversity Mentorship Program, the ACE Internship Program. I volunteer with Film to Future, which serves underserved youth in Los Angeles and high school age. Mentor through MPEG's Women's Mentorship and USC's. It's really fun to work with all these different age groups, I guess, because you have high school all the way to, in ACE Diversity Mentorship, we have editors as mentees as well, anywhere from PAs to, working editors. And so getting to talk to people at so many different parts of their career. I mean, it's so nerdy, but I'm like really passionate about editing. And so it's just, I get so much joy out of it. And I've made so many friends and relationships and just met the most wonderful people doing it. And then the other people who enjoy doing this are just great. It just does make a community. It's all these places are really like safe spaces, and I think we're in a state of the world where we need more of that, of safe spaces where we can express ourselves and connect with each other and look to each other for help and talk about tough things. And I think all of these programs allow for that. And we need more diverse storytelling and more, diversity and representation in editing and behind the scenes and filmmaking. So I love working with all these programs. It's the best. It's really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't feel, I keep saying working with, it doesn't feel like work. It's just like a joy.
No, you're consulting with them or like helping them figure things out.
I learn things. I mean, it's life-changing for me.
Yeah.
Getting to see how creative young people are, and I don't know, it's inspiring.
Yeah. Well, you will provide for them what some other thing at class in high school provided for you, right?
So many people provide for me. Every editor I worked for, every person I worked with as I came up, they were so giving with their advice, on what to do. Another great piece of advice I got was to save your money. I mean, I know this sounds like very basic, but it's advice I've given to people now, because the way to make it in this field sometimes is you have to wait it out a bit. And we're in a state in the industry now where that's very clear, where things have contracted so significantly. And having had that advice early on, it allowed me to make that risky choice. So instead of, I finally was an assistant editor making, a salary, I could have blown it on stuff or shopped a lot or done whatever. And I really saved it because I'd gotten that advice. And people being so giving and honest with their own experiences, I'd gotten that advice from someone who hadn't done that. Who couldn't make the bump to editor because they had too many financial responsibilities. They'd made choices and they were trying to help me do what they hadn't done. And I'm very grateful. So to me, there's always been people willing to give in this community. So I got so much, and I want to help the other people too.
That's great. No, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, sharing the inspiration you got, the inspiration you give. It's terrific. And once you see all those movies on my list, we'll come back and talk about those now. Is there any other final parting thoughts? Anything that someone out there watching who's like, maybe this is for me? Like, what would you say to them?
My biggest advice to newer editors, younger editors who were trying this out, try everything. Try every note. That is what's amazing about the technology now with Avid and nonlinear. There's no risks, really.
Yeah.
You can try it all, and you never have to show anybody. You can just try a wild idea, and it can be brilliant. And don't just ignore a note that seems bad. Consider it. Really consider these notes. Really consider the ideas. It doesn't matter who they came from. And when you try it, you actually have to try. You can't just say, oh, I tried it. It didn't work. It's fine. You have to really try to see if it works, because you can really surprise yourself. You can be very surprised at how it comes out. There was a scene once, a note had come in from some producers, and it was a very serious scene, crying, very dramatic, a lot of dialogue, and they suggested we make it a silent scene. Now, I don't know if anyone thought this would work, but I said, well, let's try it. It was absolutely brilliant. It's how it made it into the movie. I don't know how they thought of that. I didn't think of that.
Right.
but I was willing to try. And it wasn't like you could just cut the lines out. The whole thing had to be restructured and reconcepted into a completely different type of scene in the way we were going to design it. But I was willing to put in the effort to really try versus just like cut the lines out and be like, this doesn't work. Because that wouldn't have worked.
Right.
You really have to be passionate about putting in that extra work to make it happen.
Yeah. And,
and you should enjoy it. If this is for you, you're going to like it.
Well, the other thing is, like, aside from it, like, it's your job, right? To be open.
What a privilege, actually. Right? This is crazy. Right? This is a job.
It's a great job. Right. But sometimes trying that, even if maybe that didn't work, it leads to another thing that does. Like, that's like, if you don't,
100%.
If you don't try it, we've talked about this a couple times here. Like, you'll never know.
You'll never know. And it's like, I do that early on. Like I was saying before, I sometimes suggest really wild ideas. I'll just say what pops into my head. And I've had showrunners, directors be like, huh? Well, what are you going to do with that? I was like, I don't know. But I don't know. I thought I'd say it because it popped into my head and maybe it'll inspire you to have an idea of what to do with that.
Right.
You know, it should be just this kind of fluid, collaboration. And it's like, let's just say what we're thinking and how we're feeling about things. And maybe those pieces will, come together. It's like you said, when you were like winding films, like all of a sudden, all of this stuff, I call it the mind palace, like Sherlock thing. It's like all this stuff just swirls. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this is the thing.
But again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.